I was 40 years old when I signed the contract that would change everything. I wasn't some wide-eyed 20-something looking for adventure or college benefits. I was a man with a mortgage, two kids, a marriage on the edge of boredom, and a wife who had stopped seeing me the way she used to. Her name was Lisa. We'd been together for almost 15 years. She was sharp, practical, organized, the kind of woman who had a plan for everything: savings accounts, grocery lists, summer camps. But love, passion, that had faded somewhere between diapers and tax returns. I didn't blame her. Life got heavy. We both stopped trying. But me, I needed purpose. Something more than a desk job and barbecue Sundays. So I did something impulsive. I walked into a recruiting office. I passed the tests. I got the physical done, and I signed the damn papers. When I came home that evening and told her I enlisted for a 3-year contract with the Army, Lisa stared at me like I had just set the house on fire. "You did what?" "I joined up, Liz. I leave in 6 weeks." Her face went pale. "You're 40 years old. You have two kids. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking, I need this. I've always needed this." Then came the ultimatum. "If you do this, I'll divorce you." She didn't cry, didn't yell, just cold steel in her voice. A wall I never saw before. I wish I could say I paused, that I reconsidered. But the truth is, her threat made me want it more. Because something in me knew. If my wife couldn't support one dream I had in 15 years, maybe she never really knew me at all. But she didn't leave. After a few weeks of tension, cold dinners, and separate blankets, she changed her tone. She started asking questions: where I'd be stationed, what training was like, if there was hazard pay. She even drove me to the airport the morning I shipped out. "I'll be here when you get back," she said, gripping my hand. And for a while, I believed her. Basic training wasn't easy at my age. My body screamed every night, but I had more discipline than half the guys around me. I pushed through, made rank fast, and earned my place. I was proud. For the first time in years, I felt like a man again. Lisa sent photos of the kids, updates on the house, even care packages with snacks and handwritten notes. It felt like we were healing, but something never sat right. The tone of her voice during calls, the missed FaceTimes, the weekends when she said she was visiting her sister. But I knew her sister lived out of state and they hadn't spoken in years. I told myself it was just distance, just stress. I kept pushing forward. By the end of my 3rd year, I extended my contract one more time. Just 6 months. Enough to close out a mission and come home clean. When I finally returned, she welcomed me at the airport. The kids hugged me. The house smelled like cinnamon rolls. For a few weeks it was perfect, until I found that note, tucked under the driver's seat of her car, crumpled up and half torn. Probably trash. Maybe something she thought she'd thrown away. But I opened it. It was a receipt for a hotel room. 2 nights, a reservation under Dan M., and scrawled in the corner, in her handwriting, "Next time, no hickeys." Jack almost noticed. My stomach dropped. Dan M. There was only one Dan in her life. My commanding officer. I stared at the note for a solid 10 minutes. My fingers trembled. My pulse pounded in my ears like gunfire. "Next time, no hickeys." That was the sentence that cracked my world open. Dan M. The name scratched into the corner of a hotel receipt like it was some casual inside joke between lovers. I tried to think rationally. Dan Miller? My old high school buddy? No. He lived 3 states away. Dan from church? No last initial. But then one name floated to the top like oil in dirty water. Major Dan Monroe. My commanding officer. Tall, confident, charismatic. The kind of guy who could charm the socks off anyone. Lisa had met him once, at a family barbecue during base leave. She laughed at his jokes too much. They sat closer than I liked. But I brushed it off back then. Now I couldn't. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I needed proof. I folded the receipt, slipped it into my wallet, and started watching. For 2 weeks, I played detective in my own home. I noticed things I had never paid attention to before. She started dressing nicer, even when just going to the store. New perfume I'd never smelled before. Extra showers. She hid her phone like it was top secret. Always face down. Always silent. When I casually asked, "You talked to anyone from base recently?" She stiffened for half a second before forcing a smile. "Just some of the wives on Facebook." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just wondering. Thought I saw Monroe at the gas station the other day. Maybe he's around." Her smile faltered for just a heartbeat. That was when I knew. But something else happened that confused the hell out of me. That weekend, we were at a neighborhood barbecue. I saw her chatting with someone, a guy named Dan Martinez, a tech guy, slightly overweight, wore glasses, the guy most women ignored. But Lisa? She laughed too hard at his jokes, touched his arm while talking, brushed her hair behind her ear the way she only used to do with me. For a moment I thought, wait, is this the Dan M? Could it really be this guy? I started tailing Martinez. For a week, I followed his car after work. Nothing. He went straight home every time. I even parked outside his apartment once. Watched him carry a bag of groceries inside alone. Then I made a mistake. I confronted him. It was at the gym. I cornered him near the water fountain. "You know Lisa Bennett?" "Yeah, why?" I leaned in. "You ever book a hotel room with her?" He looked at me like I'd lost my damn mind. "What? No, are you serious, man? I helped her set up a laptop last week. That's it." And he wasn't lying. The fear, the offense, it was all real. I backed off, embarrassed. I almost apologized. But that night, Lisa came home late again. Said she was helping a friend move. No details. She smelled like cologne. Not mine. That's when I knew Dan Martinez was just a decoy, or a coincidence. But Monroe, he had motive, access, charm, and more importantly, he had once called my wife intense in a way that made my skin crawl. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I put a tracking app on her car, and I waited. 3 days passed. She went to work, to Target, to the school, all normal. Then on a Thursday evening, around 6:40 p.m., her car pinged on my phone. Not at the grocery store like she said. It was at the Hampton Inn off Route 18. I got in my truck, heart pounding, mind racing, hands shaking. I parked across the street, watched the parking lot, and then I saw him, Major Dan Monroe, walking out of the lobby, adjusting his shirt collar, smirking. 3 minutes later, Lisa walked out the same door. Hair messy, lipstick faded. They didn't walk together. They didn't kiss. But they didn't need to. My stomach turned. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. And everything in me went cold. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my truck for hours, parked 2 blocks from home, gripping the steering wheel like it could anchor me to something solid. But nothing felt solid anymore. Not my marriage. Not my memories. Not the life I thought I had returned to after service. I kept playing the moment over in my head, Monroe leaving the hotel, smug and untouchable. Lisa following behind, casual, like this was normal, like I didn't exist. By the time the sun rose, my thoughts weren't just angry, they were surgical. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to scream, I was going to make her say it out loud. I walked into the kitchen just as she was pouring coffee. She looked up, startled. "Hey, you were out early. Everything okay?" I watched her for a moment. She had no idea. She still wore the same face she always did when lying to me. Calm, pleasant, deliberate. "Yeah, just needed air," I said. I sat down, stared at the steam rising from my mug. "Where were you last night?" I asked. She blinked. "What do you mean?" "You told me you were going to Kroger. You were gone 2 hours." Her eyes narrowed, a slight twitch in her left brow, a tell I'd learned over the years. "There was traffic," she said, "and I stopped by my sister's." "Sister lives in Texas, remember?" Silence, then she smiled, small and nervous. "Oh no, I meant her friend. They moved back. You don't know her." The lies kept piling, thin and desperate. "Cut the shit, Lisa." I stood up. "I saw you, at the Hampton Inn, with Monroe." Her face dropped. Not just the color, the expression. The mask cracked instantly. She didn't ask how I knew. She didn't deny it. She just went still. How long? I asked. She swallowed. It didn't mean anything. My laugh came out bitter and loud. That's not what I asked. A few months, she whispered. It started last fall. I didn't plan it. He reached out. We talked. It just happened. That phrase, it just happened, hit harder than any punch I ever took in basic. I was gone for you, for this family. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, everything. And you were what? Screwing my superior officer? She winced. Jack, please. Do the kids know? No, of course not. They'd never. Would they care? And I said, or would they just call him dad number 2 now? Her eyes filled with tears. Good. Let her cry. I had nothing left to give her. I walked past her. I couldn't be in the same room. In the hallway, I looked at the wedding photo hanging on the wall. I stared at the younger versions of us. Hopeful, dumb, in love. I took it down and set it face down on the floor. I spent the rest of the day outside. I built a fire pit years ago behind the garage. It had always been my thinking spot. I sat there staring into ashes, wondering what the hell to do with 15 years of betrayal wrapped in a familiar smile. Around 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Monroe. Can we talk? Man to man. I didn't respond. What would I say? That I should have seen it? That I was the idiot in uniform while he was playing house with my wife? Instead, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Lisa at the kids' soccer game. Lisa holding a welcome home sign. Lisa asleep on the couch with the dog in her arms. I wanted to hate her, but the truth is, part of me still loved her. And that was the worst part. Later that night, we spoke again. Quietly, like strangers. She cried. I stayed cold. She asked if I was going to leave. I don't know yet, I said. But if I stay, he transfers, or I report him. She nodded, said she'd handle it. I didn't trust her, and deep down I knew this wasn't over. The days that followed were a blur of shadows and quiet rage. Lisa tiptoed around the house like a stranger walking through someone else's life. She stopped wearing perfume. She stopped asking how my day was. She moved like someone walking through a minefield, knowing one wrong word might blow the whole thing up again. And me? I was a ghost, alive, but numb. I got up, I made coffee, I did chores, I took the kids to school. I even smiled when I had to. Fake, mechanical smiles that probably looked like grimaces. But inside, something was tearing loose. Something permanent. I couldn't stop imagining it. Them together. Not just the sex, though that haunted me more than I'd admit. It was everything else. The text messages behind my back, the little smirks during phone calls, the excuses she must have rehearsed, the way Monroe probably bragged about it at the base, thinking I was too stupid to ever know. I kept replaying all the conversations I'd had with him during service, the laughs, the camaraderie, the moments I looked up to him, and all the while, he was stealing the one thing I was fighting to protect. My home. One evening, about a week later, Lisa finally broke the silence. I was sitting on the porch watching the sun go down behind the trees when she stepped outside with a glass of water. She didn't sit. She just stood there holding the glass, looking like she was about to deliver bad news. He's transferring, she said, voluntarily, out of state. I didn't say anything. I asked him to. He agreed. I just nodded. And, I'm sorry. That was it. 2 words. I'm sorry. For 15 years of marriage. For sleeping with my commanding officer. For turning my life into a joke. Do you love him? I asked without turning my head. She hesitated, and that was enough. It wasn't like that, she finally whispered. He listened. You were gone. I felt invisible. I wasn't thinking straight. So it's my fault? I asked, still calm. Because I wore a uniform? She shook her head quickly. No, that's not what I meant. I was lonely. That word. Lonely. Like I wasn't sleeping in sand. Like I wasn't eating MREs and waking up to alarms in the middle of the night for her. Like I wasn't staring at pictures of my family every night, counting the days until I could hold them again. I stood up. You had every tool to talk to me, email, video, mail. You could have said anything, But instead, you opened your legs for someone you barely knew. Her eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. No, Lisa. What's not fair is I gave everything to this family, and while I was protecting strangers, you were screwing my commanding officer in a hotel room we used to stay in together. She cried, real tears, silent sobs, and I just stood there. I felt nothing, not anger, not love, just an emptiness so big it felt like falling into space. That night I slept on the couch again, not because I had to, but because the bed felt polluted, like his scent was still there, like she was still lying next to a man who wasn't me. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, sweaty, anxious. Once I walked into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. The man staring back wasn't the soldier I used to be. He was older, worn, tired, and something inside him had died. A few days later, I drove to the base. Monroe was already gone, his office cleared, no goodbye, no closure. I stood in the hallway outside his old office for a long time. Then I walked into the colonel's office and handed over a report, anonymously. I detailed everything. The affair, the violation of the chain of command, the ethical breaches. The colonel didn't say a word, just took the envelope and gave me a slow nod. Thank you, Sergeant. We'll take it from here. I walked out without another word. That was the last time I set foot on base. At home, Lisa tried harder. She made my favorite meals, left notes around the house, sat beside me while I watched TV like it meant something. But the truth was, she was too late. The damage had been done, not just to the marriage, to me. I stopped trusting Smiles. I stopped believing him forever. And most of all, I stopped believing that love, real love, couldn't be destroyed by weakness. Because it can. It was. And every day I looked at her, I saw the cracks she left. The cracks I couldn't seal. Weeks passed. Then a month. The world kept turning, but mine hadn't moved an inch. Not really. Lisa was still there. In the kitchen making breakfast, at the dinner table asking how my day was, folding laundry like everything was normal. Like she could stitch the fabric of our life back together with silence and domestic routine. But I saw it every time I looked at her. The guilt, the shame, the carefully managed smile, the fear in her eyes every time I got quiet for too long. She knew the bomb had already gone off. She just didn't know whether I was walking away from the wreckage or lighting another fuse. The truth is, I didn't know either. The kids, they were the only reason I didn't leave immediately. Our son Jack Jr. had just started high school. Bright, athletic, but sensitive. He looked up to me, worshipped me, and our daughter Ellie just turned 10. She still believed in bedtime stories, in heroes, in her daddy being the strongest man on earth. I looked at them and wondered, what happens if I walk away? Do I shatter their home? Do I become the man who abandoned his family? But staying felt like dying. Every breakfast felt like a performance. Every birthday felt like pretending. Every hug from Lisa felt like swallowing nails. I tried. God knows I tried. We went to marriage counseling. The therapist said all the things they usually do. Rebuild trust, communicate honestly, own your pain. Lisa cried during every session. I didn't say much. What was the point? You can't glue back a mirror and expect it to reflect the same face. The letter. It was a Sunday afternoon when I found it. I was cleaning the garage when I opened an old box from my last deployment. Inside, beneath some medals and a folded flag, I found a notebook, my deployment journal. I hadn't opened it since the day I came home. I flipped through the pages. March 3rd. Miss Lisa like hell. Ellie drew a picture of me in her letter. Broke my damn heart. April 15th. Monroe seems like a solid guy. Got drinks tonight. Might be someone I can trust if shit goes sideways. I stopped reading. It hit me like a gut punch. How naive I'd been. How blind. And that's when I knew. I couldn't stay. Not for Lisa. Not for the kids. Not even for myself. Because staying meant slowly bleeding to death while smiling. The conversation. It was late when I told her. Kids were asleep. Rain tapping on the windows. Lisa was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling her phone. I'm leaving, I said. She looked up like she didn't hear me right. What? I'm leaving. Not tonight, but soon. I've thought about it every day for 2 months, and it's not going away. I can't live like this. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She stared at me like I just told her someone had died. Jack, I thought we were, I thought we were making progress. You were making progress. I was surviving. There's a difference. She broke. Completely. She fell to the floor, sobbing, begging, literally begging it for another chance. She promised everything. No more lies, no more secrets. She said she loved me, that she would never forgive herself if I left. But I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't care. I helped her up, sat her on the couch, looked her in the eyes. You buried us, Lisa. You just didn't stay for the funeral. Then I walked upstairs and started packing. Starting over 2 weeks later, I was gone. I rented a small house 2 towns over. Quiet street, no memories. The kids stayed with Lisa, but I saw them every weekend. Took them camping, cooked dinners, never missed a school event. I stayed their father, just not her husband. And slowly something strange happened. I started to feel like me again. I began running every morning, took a part-time security job at the VA hospital, started journaling again. Not just war stories, real thoughts. Wrote a letter to myself on the day I left. You made it. You didn't lose. You reclaimed your dignity. You walked through hell and didn't let it define you. Lisa sent emails, called. Once she even showed up at my door. She said she still loved me, that she understood now, that she was broken too. I told her the truth. I don't hate you, but I can't love you again. I don't have it in me. The final thought. It's been a year now. The pain isn't gone, but it's dulled, like an old scar. I don't flinch when I see wedding photos. I don't avoid the smell of her perfume anymore. I don't check my phone hoping she hasn't texted. I stopped hoping altogether. And that's a kind of peace too. I'm not who I was before the war. I'm not who I was before the betrayal. But I'm someone new, stronger, wiser, a man who walked through betrayal with his head held high. Because here's the thing no one tells you about being cheated on. It doesn't make you less of a man. It just proves who the real coward was all along. And I was never the coward.